All right. Thanks everybody for joining today. Super excited for our panel. We're going to be talking about user research and different tools to make sure you're putting out the right experience for your customers. So I'm going to just go left to right on my screen for our panelists and give them each just a quick moment to introduce themselves and their tool. We'll be then doing about 5 to 10 minutes for each tool so we can go a lot deeper to understand. Please ask your questions throughout those presentations, and then we'll open up the floor for discussion at the end of our time today. In the meantime, use chat. Feel free to comment where you are, what you do, what your business site is as well. Tim, you want to go first? Introduce yourself.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, AJ. Hey, everyone. My name is Tim Rotolo. I'm the head of product at a usability testing company called TryMyUI. I'm also one of the co-founders. Me and our other co-founders started this back in 2014, and I've been working on developing our products ever since. So we have a variety of tools that we use to help business owners and website owners and app owners get feedback on their products and see how they can optimize those. I'm based in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I guess that's all I've got to say for now.
Great, thanks, Tim. Looks like Sandeep's up next.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, AJ. Hi, everyone. I'm Sandeep Shah. I run the product team at a company called Webtrends Optimize, formerly owned by Webtrends, which was US-based out of Portland and Seattle. A new company based out of London, which is where I'm from. Been around doing this for a fair while now, give or take 10 years, I think. Currently running the product team, so looking at what we build and why, and doing all the fun R&D stuff, essentially.
Great, thanks for being on. And Aiden, last but not least.
Thanks, AJ. Yeah, hi guys, my name is Aiden. You might notice a bit of an accent from me. That's because I'm based in Wellington, New Zealand. So thanks heaps for allowing me to dial in at the early morning in New Zealand time. I work for a company called Optimal Workshop, where I'm a product coach. So I specialize in training people to use our 5 user research tools and really get the most out of them. We specialize in particularly information architecture tools. So yeah, I'll unpack a bit more of what that looks like, I guess, in my session today.
All right, great. Well, and Lori Appleman and I are the co-organizers of this Austin e-commerce and retail group. So we'll be facilitating the panel today. A quick introduction about myself. I run a conversion rate optimization company here in Austin, Texas. We love user research. It's a critical part of optimization. So really excited to talk about these great tools with you guys today. Lori, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Lori Appleman. I run an e-commerce only development and marketing company. We also do a lot of software stack implementations and advice, what do I use to do this, etc. I've been in it about 20 years, and I just really like the fact it's a moving target. And I'm thrilled to see store owners here, because so many don't understand that everything you do is all about the customer. So figuring out what they want is, going to raise your sales. That's kind of the whole point. So this is a really important topic that not everybody gets. So anyway, thank you guys for coming. Looking forward to it. So.
All right, Tim, do you want to kick things off and give us a more detailed view of things?
Absolutely. All right. I think I'm just going to dive right in. Let me pull up my screen and get started here. Okay, is that showing for everyone?
Yeah, looks great.
Okay, so like I said, I'm the head of product here at TryMyUI usability testing. I've just pulled up my own account here, and I'm going to show you a few things that you can do with our platform. Basically, TryMyUI helps you to run usability tests on your live website, on your staging website, on prototypes, on anything that you've got that you want to get feedback on and see how you can make that a better experience for your site visitors, for your customers. See what they're liking about it, see what they're disliking about it. And the way that we do that is we have real people that we recruit go through and record themselves using your site or your app or whatever it is, and give feedback as they go through. So what you get back from a test is a video of that person's feedback, as well as some survey responses and some metrics to help you understand what it all means. So I'm viewing my dashboard here right now, and I've got a bunch of different tests on here. Each one is on a different website or on a different prototype or a different app. Let me just go ahead and jump right into an example one. And here's an e-commerce site that we tested. E-commerce is one of the main industries that we serve. It, of course, is a very heavily customer-centric, user-centric industry. And so a lot of e-commerce store owners prioritize getting this kind of feedback to see what they can do to optimize that experience, make the flow as easy and smooth and intuitive as possible. So this is an apparel website that we ran a sample test on. It's kind of a golf brand. And so we've set up the test here. We put the homepage in as the starting URL of the test that we're going to send those recruited users to and have them record from there. We've set this up as a website test rather than, say, a prototype that you've designed but not built yet. And then we've had people take this on their computers. And we also have the ability to do those on iPhone, on Android, or just on any mobile device. And I've got a mobile one I can show as well. One of the big pieces of a test setup is the demographics. Who should take this test, right? Because if you're, say, a women's shoe store, you only want feedback from women who are buying shoes, right? So whatever your target audience is, we have a variety of filters and screeners that you can use to say, this is who I want feedback from, right? So this is a men's apparel site store in the US. And so we chose for the participants to be male, 26 to 38 in the US. We put some other things that were relevant for that target audience. And besides these basic filters, we also wanted to target something more specific to the brand. So we set up a custom question and said, do you play golf? And accepted people who marked the yes response. So this way we could kind of get feedback from that exact target audience of younger American men who are into golf and who would maybe be interested in this brand, right? So whatever your audience is, you can set the right screeners and filters, and TryMyUI is going to do the recruiting for you based on what you've set up and find the right people to give you feedback. Then the last bit of the setup here is what you actually want them to try out on your site as they go through. So we had them start off with an impression test where they just look at the homepage for 15 seconds, and then we hide it and ask them, what do you remember from that page? What products or services do you think that they're offering? Some basic stuff, just after a little bit of exposure to see whether they're understanding your value proposition, what they think your site is about, if they feel like this is a site that's for them, and if it's welcoming and they're understanding the messaging. Impression test can be a really valuable thing to start off with. Then you do a scenario to just describe to them what's the real life context here, to set the scene and allow them to step into the shoes of someone who's really using this site in a real day-to-day situation. So we told them you're looking for a couple of new casual shirts and you came across this website, right? And then everything that we wanted them to do as they tested out this site, we just put those in task instructions here. So task number 1 from that homepage, we wanted them to tell us, what's grabbing your eye here? What would you want to do first from here? Then task number 2, we told them, look for some shirts that you like. Task number 3, narrow it down to your favorite 2 that you'd be most likely to buy and tell us why'd you choose those ones and what went into that decision, right? So we continue on and kind of try to recreate what would be a realistic user journey, user flow through the website, breaking it down one step at a time so that during each task, they can focus on just that bit and tell us what they're thinking about it. And so the way that these are actually facilitated is, as I scroll down my test results page, I've got some metrics here, some diagnostics, but the main portion is these videos. And I'm going to pull up one of the videos here. We had 3 people take this test, right? And we saw those demographics that we used. And I've got Logan's video here I pulled up, and I can click on his name and see his profile information. But let's go ahead and watch just a little bit of his session. I'll jump into the middle of it. So while they're going through and using the site, we're recording their whole screen, and I can see where he's going, what he's doing. We're also recording the microphone, and he's going to be speaking out loud, narrating what he likes, what he dislikes, what's confusing, what's frustrating. So I can watch this back and see exactly what I can change, what I can improve, what I should keep in my designs that people are liking. And based on this feedback from real people in my target audience, I can optimize my website continually and make it better and better, right? I'll let this play for just a moment so we can hear him talking.
Have both pockets. So overall, this one's not bad. It looks like that's the same model. So
right, and so we just get a window into everything that's going through his head as he goes. And we've got some features to help you out. You can save or share clips from the videos. You can jump around to specific tasks. So if I just want to see what he thought about the product pages for now, I can jump to task 4 where that's happening. I can see what he responds to the follow-up survey. All your tests have the video portion, and afterwards you can ask custom questions and have them fill out what they liked and what they thought about various things. And then the last bit is our diagnostics, and these are going to cut down on the time it takes to actually get through these videos, because videos can be difficult and time-consuming to get through. But here, let me show you a test. Here's a mobile test that we ran on the PetSmart website. We had 20 people take this because we wanted some numbers that would be really, really reliable and just have a larger sample size. But now I've got several hours of video to go through. So where do I start, right? Well, we've included an overall score model here called the Super Q, and we have a bunch of different models. These are all industry standard models. And if you want one of these scores, you just check a box and we've got it built in for you. So if you check that box to get a Super Q or an NPS score, right, I can look and see right away, okay, Sydney is my one detractor. Let's watch her video first and see what went wrong in her experience that I can maybe start fixing, right? So out of all those 20 videos, I know exactly which one I want to check out first, right? Or I can look at all my Super Q scores and say, who had the lowest score, right? So maybe I want to watch these 5 first because they had the lowest scores. Or maybe I want to see, what am I doing well? What do people like? Here's my people that loved it, who had 100s, on their score, right? And then we've got metrics about the task. So, you saw how each of the videos is comprised of different tasks that we had them perform. And you can get scores for those. We can see the usability ratings. We can see completion. So we have some incompletes here. Task 4, where we had people set an in-store pickup on the site. We had Luella here, wasn't able to complete that. And I've got a play link where I can jump right to task 4 in her video and just watch that part and see, why did that happen? What went wrong for her, right? So that's loading up. And I can go to Joshua's video in task 5, where I can look at my ratings and see, okay, everything overall was pretty smooth, but did I have any stragglers? And we can graph those and see exactly who rated it. So Luella, we already know wasn't able to complete that, but we also have Henri, who had a lower score too. So we give you all these things to help you, first of all, see exactly what's happening in the sessions, but also to get through those quickly, to identify exactly where you want to start, what you want to look for, and just measure over time. So if I run this test every month and I make changes in between, I can see, did my score go up? Was I able to get that checkout step from 169 seconds down to 150 or 130, right? And so that's what you can do with a test, and that's what you get back from a TryMyUI test. I think I better stop now. I didn't look at the clock, but I'm probably about out of time, right?
Yeah, thanks for this overview, Tim. We did get a question. One of the questions was, how much does the platform cost?
Sure, we have a variety of different tier options of different service levels. Our lowest is $99 per month. And that's going to give you 5 results. So that's 5 different people going through their site and giving the feedback each month. And we have options ranging from that all the way up to $5,000 a month, which is what our airlines and hotel lines and stuff are paying us. But you can pick any of these. We have month-to-month and annual options, and each one gives you a robust data set and feature set depending on your plan level.
All right, great. Well, I have lots of follow-up questions for you, Tim, but let's pass it off for the overview, and then we'll save that for the Q&A. Thanks for that
Absolutely.
overview. Sandeep, do you want to go next?
Yes. So that one. Share. Cool. So it should start to come through, hopefully. So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I'm from Webtrends Optimize. We are a digital experimentation and personalization platform, essentially helping people find regular improvements on their websites and apps through the use of research and testing. And I'll try and explain what those things mean. So as people kind of look towards CRO, you launch a website, maybe a new store. Sometimes you use promotions to try and generate extra sales. At some point you'll say, hey, if we get more traffic, we'll get more sales. So people go and focus on SEO, PPC, demand gen, essentially the acquisition of users. And then later on in that journey is where we step in and we say, let's try and make more of the people that are coming to our site. So convert some of these browsers into buyers. With a long shot of kind of saying, the more personal an experience we can deliver to people, the better it'll be overall. So the question people ask is, why aren't my users buying, browsing, spending more money, buying more things, whatever it might be? And from there, we kind of go and generate test ideas. Some of these can come from user research, like we just saw with TryMyUI. They might come out of data and analytics tools like Google Analytics, where you can say, hey, this page has a really high bounce rate or something along those lines, and we should look there. It might come out of other session recording tools like Hotjar. So we'll come up with some ideas, go and build that as an experiment in Optimize, which I'll show you in a sec, and essentially look for something like this back. So, we run your default site side by side with a proposed new change. So current nav versus slim nav, get people entering both. We go and compare purchases for the control group versus the new one. We go and look at the improvement and statistical validity, hopefully with a viewer saying, your new idea has helped, increase purchases by X, but also looking at those peripheral metrics, add to bags, payment page, whatever it is that we decide to track. Could be errors and kind of negative things that we're looking to reduce as well. It's not always about improvement. A lot of people run experiments, just to put it out there. The most successful companies run considerable volumes of them. And then just looking at who we are as a platform, a lot of people may have come across Google Optimize, for example, or Optimizely on the very other end. That's the kind of area that we play in. So we are a full stack platform. You can run experiments for the web, which is what most people do. The tag looks very similar to like a Google Analytics or Google Tag Manager, something like that. But you can experiment on the server side as well. So new payment methods, for example, things you wouldn't want users to just be able to switch on and off. So you can go all the way from doing research with us. So looking at things a lot further than you'd find in your analytics tool, maybe errors people are hitting, which form fields they're entering, where they're dropping off, things like this. You can then go and run experiments. They're called A/B tests or ABN tests, sometimes split testing, sometimes MVTs. They're all slightly different flavors of the same thing. Go and personalize. We can capture any volume of sporadic data really, and then use that as the basis to go and target an experience to. We can run no-code experiences as well. So if there is an announcement or a quick promo to get live, you can do that. We can run these social proofing messages, which I'm sure people have seen on retail and travel sites everywhere nowadays. X people have bought this in the last whatever. And then run recommendations as well. Key differentiator between us and some of the other tools is that we have no paywalls. There are no tiers, no way of upgrading. Every single thing you can do with us is available as standard. That's just the way we do things. And then just some social proofing-y stuff. We do well. Satisfaction scores are considerably higher for us than our peers because we support our people really well. And yeah, I've got a few other bits I could walk through, but I think it's sometimes a bit nicer just to jump in. So this is what the tool looks like, having just logged in. Dashboard of all your projects, quick snapshots of what's going on. Trying to build a new test. So you kind of say, what's my environment, web, what's the type of test, and where do you want to build it? Visual Editor, WYSIWYG one, or coded. You then fire up a website. And the idea is that it's a visual tool. So you say, let me click on this thing, make some changes, shop gifts for him. So you can update content. You can update a bunch of styling attributes, as you see here, backgrounds, height, width, spacing, text, color, all these kind of things. So I'm not much of a designer, but kind of see that buttons now change from white to dark red, text is updated. If we wanted to get the links pointing somewhere else as well, again, edit link, just pop that in. Our pre-built experiences are behind these widgets, kind of small library, it's growing. But we ask you for a few bits, you click apply widget, we generate the thing for you. Looking at targeting people, you can start with something that exists already, desktop only, have a peek if you need to. You can then go and target people off traffic, so things like UTM params, if you're running campaigns, their browser, operating system, where they are geographically, country, state, whatever it might be. We've got long and Latin there as well, if you ever need to be that precise. Cookie data, we've got our own data layer, stuff like that as well. You can host your own inventory with us. Sometimes it's a bit of a challenge for people to be able to do that. And then, yeah, once you built your test, you can preview it. We've got a little bookmark in your browser. It'll show you what's on the site. You can change your view, just click the number. And then once you've set it live, these are the kind of reports that you'll look to get back. So this one's drop-off analysis, sample retail journey. It may look like this, bunch of metrics as we saw earlier. If you apply these, which are called dimensions, then your report split by that metric. So if it's browser, then you can see all the various metrics split by Chrome, Edge, and so on. And yeah, a whole bunch of kind of wider peripheral things we do, live chat in the UI to make sure we support users a little bit more and things like that. But broadly speaking, you know, have a good idea of what you're looking to experiment with, and then use data to go and make that good decision of, is this the right thing to do based on what real people are telling me by the actions they perform? That's kind of where we step in.
All right, thank you so much, Sandeep. And I'm gonna, again, hold my questions, but excited to get you guys discussing sort of where to start with all this for our group. Aiden, do you wanna give your overview next?
Yeah, sure. Thanks heaps, AJ. I'll go ahead and share my screen as well here. So yeah, thanks for having me again. My name is Aiden. I am a product coach at Optimal Workshop, where we specialize in better experiences for everyone. So Optimal Workshop are the world leaders in information architecture tools for user research. We allow people to create really simple studies to actually garner quite detailed and rich insights about the way that their customers perceive the information on their website. And through the ease of creating studies with us for specified means, you can actually test quicker and get to those insights a lot quicker than creating a larger study or larger research project. And this can actually allow you to test more things, more proposed ideas for the way that you label your content potentially, or your design itself, or potentially do more testing of one design and have more confidence in that robust design. So we are world leaders in the information architecture space, and this is because we pioneered the digitization of card sorting back in 2007 when we released Optimal Sort. Optimal Sort is a digital card sorting tool that allows you to understand your customers' unique mental models when it comes to how they would label and group your products. We then, the year after, launched TreeJack, which is a tree testing tool that actually enables you to present your website structure to people in a text-only sort of format, and actually understand where they would go in your website structure when given a certain task. We then launched Chalkmark, which is also task-based like TreeJack. However, instead of being given your website structure to navigate, people would simply be presented with an image of your website or your app and nominate where they would click to go next. We also have a standalone survey tool where you can ask people open, closed, and scale question types really directly and get those insights in a very direct manner. And more recently, in 2016, we launched Reframer, which is a qualitative note-taking tool that pairs really nicely with when you're conducting usability testing or potentially customer interviews, actually, gathering your notes during the session and then being able to house these in a central place that you and your team can come back to and do some analysis with. So just to unpack information architecture a little bit further, information architecture is the way that you label and structure content on your website to really optimize the experience. This is done through components such as ontology, taxonomy, and choreography. So ontology is the way that we label our products intuitive and well received. Taxonomy is the structure of our website and the hierarchy of our website. Actually fit for purpose and intuitive. And choreography, so perhaps on a given page, are things laid out in a way that makes sense, or are things a bit jumbled, or potentially is a page too loud? These are all important components that feed into the overall design. And so you can see, I guess, on the right there, I've tried to visualize it with information architecture really underpinning user experience. If you don't have confidence in the ontology, taxonomy, or choreography of the elements on your website, then you can't have confidence, I suppose, in the actual user experience that you're providing. So how do optimal workshop studies work? So I've excluded Reframer here, which is only used by researchers. These tools, Optimal Sort, TreeJack, Chalkmark, and Questions are tools that you can actually create studies with as researchers or people doing research, and then send these studies out to people to engage with. There's a design element. You would potentially import your products or your content that you want to test to become cards for an optimal sort. You might replicate your website structure in a TreeJack study. You might potentially import some images of your website to test these in a Chalkmark first click test. Or you might draft up some questions to ask people directly in a survey that you send out to them. So you'd then recruit people. So you would do this by utilizing the unique study URL that we provide in-app, and you might look to send this out potentially via a mailing list. You also might send this out or distribute this on social media. You may potentially create a pop-up on your website that directs people to complete these surveys. We also have a participant recruitment panel available in-app, which you can utilize with ease as well. And once you've had people complete your studies, you can then analyze your results. So you'll be able to see some really cool visualizations for some sort of at a glance views and insights, but you'll also actually be able to delve deeper into these insights as well. So the most used optimal workshop tools for e-commerce and retail companies are Optimal Sort, TreeJack, and Chalkmark. And this is because these are the tools that really allow people to optimize the navigation and the findability of certain products on their website. So really making that buying process as frictionless as possible and ultimately optimizing conversions. So I'm just going to unpack those three tools in a bit more detail here. So card sorting is a methodology that allows you to discover how people conceptualize, group, and label products. I was actually speaking to someone recently about some struggles they were having grouping their wine products. They weren't sure whether to group this by the region it was produced, by the variety of wine, simply by red and white wine, by the pricing. So this is a great example of where they could create a card sort, send this out to say 50 participants, and understand the trends of the mental models that their customers actually have and how they would, like this content to actually show on their website. So here's an example of the participant experience for a card sort. You can see the cards on the far left of the screen there representing in this case, the different pages on the website. This could also represent your certain products that you're looking to test for. And people can drag these cards to the right of screen and then start to name the categories that they, create. This is what's called an open card sort. So you'll be able to see people's proposed category ideas, and is a great way to explore how people would actually label their content. Otherwise, if you're looking to validate some existing categories or some proposed categories, you can create what's called a closed card sort and fix those category names in for people to then sort accordingly. So some great options to explore new labeling ideas, as well as sort of validate your existing ones potentially. And through, 50 to 100 people, or maybe even 30 people conducting a card sort, you can actually see those aggregate mental models start to form, as well as those unique responses that are given for each participant. So this will show you things such as the affinity between different products, some proposed high-level groupings, some proposed lower, more specific level groupings. And this really can give you confidence in the way that you would group and label the products on your website. TreeJack and tree testing allows you to test that navigation, and it allows you to evaluate where and why people get lost in your content, and allows you to fix it. So are people getting to the right place in your website? And if they're not, which fork in the road are they going wrong at? So an example of TreeJack shows on the left of screen here. You can see this is very deliberately simplified and text only, and this allows for that real robust data being information architecture and taxonomy specific. So you're not distracting people by different fonts, different icons. It's purely testing the actual structure and the labeling involved. So you can see here they've been given a task and they're clicking through the website structure to nominate where they would go to find that product or that information. Through this, you'll be able to actually see, again, were people getting to the right spot? And how confident were they in that spot? Were they having to click around a lot, or were they able to go there straight away with no clickbacks? This is all something that shows an analysis. And yeah, if people aren't going to the right place, where else are they going? You'll be able to see the aggregate paths showing an analysis, to allow you to unpack which, I guess, set of options potentially provide a bit of confusion for people and allow you to fix that up. Because TreeJack tests are really simple to create, you can actually do some A/B testing with TreeJack for some different proposals of website structures and get some really quick feedback into which are the most sort of intuitive website structures for your customers. And then Chalkmark, our first click testing tool. Put simply, make sure the first click is the right click. So we don't want to take people astray on our website. Otherwise, there's a good chance that we might lose the sale. And so how do we actually make sure that when people are presented with the various pages on our website, they're clicking in the right place? As simple as that. So like TreeJack, with a Chalkmark study, it is task-based. And instead of being presented with the website structure, participants are presented with the actual image of your website. This could be an existing image that you've pulled, or potentially it could be an image from a design system for some proposed designs. So people simply do one click per task to nominate where they would go from there. And this, oh, do I have a question there? I can continue. Cool. So this allows you to actually see some success rates again, and also some heat maps of the accumulative clicks among 50 or 100 or maybe even more people. So you'll be able to see, is your each page having the desired outcome, or is it maybe being too noisy, or are people getting distracted? Are there options on the side that are distracting people from the core options on the top, for example? This is all insights that can be garnered through Chalkmark. And you see some examples of that with the task success in the top left, and then also some heat maps in the bottom left corner there. So you'll be able to see, if people weren't clicking in the right place, where were they clicking? And that could actually be some insight that you might want to reconsider where certain content is housed. So this pairs really nicely with TreeJack in terms of, once you've got confidence in the taxonomy and the underlying labeling and structure, then testing each individual sort of page with the designs on top to understand each aspect of, I guess, your design process. So that, in a quick dip of the toe, is Optimal Workshop. We have 5 user research tools, which you can learn more about at optimalworkshop.com. We have a free plan available there if you want to try out a card sort. You could create one today and share it with friends or family, even if you do want to try out that one example I was talking about earlier. And yeah, feel free to also let me know if you have any other questions yourself. My name is Aiden Pierce. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn or send me an email there via the address showing. So yeah, any questions welcome. Thanks heaps.
Thanks, Aiden. Yeah, I'd love to hear from all 3 of you. I think one of the things probably going through a lot of our store owners' minds is like, where should I get started with research, and what's the impact to my business? Could you guys each take a moment to kind of talk through e-commerce in particular and what kind of impact these tools and research can have? Feel free to jump in, whoever wants to go first.
I can, go first if you like. So there was some really compelling research that was done in terms of, I guess, that first click, and the majority of people, if they take the wrong first click, they will just power through. And so I guess thinking of that from an e-commerce lens, if people take that wrong first click, they're on a path away from the product that they're searching for ultimately. So that has some massive ramifications in terms of the actual purchasing that they do and the conversion accordingly. But yeah, that's just a brief sort of answer there for you.
Yeah, I think from our side, when it comes more to running experiments, up until that point, all the research you do is almost theoretical, but being able to get real numbers from real users on the site to say, here is A, here is B, it's kind of like a blind study. You're not being told that you're part of an experiment, except for little things you opt into, and letting their actions really dictate what works. I've not really seen anything quite like running A/B tests and experiments in general. That kind of gives you that depth of research to say what really does work. It's very hard to kind of fight against as a user. You're kind of voting with every purchase.
As far as usability testing, if it's something that you've never done before, often the best place to start is just with the most generic common flow that people take through the site. And you probably have a sense of what are the common steps that someone takes from, what's the page that they start on. Maybe that's the home page. Maybe most people are arriving at a landing page that you have for your Google ads. Whatever's that starting point, whatever are the next steps they go through that, you just set up that most common series of tasks and test that. A good place to check if you're not sure is your Google Analytics, and that can tell you what are my most common starting pages and what are the steps that people take through the site. Where are the parts that people are dropping off? If you know that there's a certain flow where you're losing a big chunk of your visitors, maybe you want to set up a series of tasks that will take people through that series, that flow, and then you get to hear people talking about why they might have some difficulty or some confusion there. And another good starting point is to run a test on your competitors' sites and see what they're doing that people are liking or that people are disliking. With TryMyUI, you can test anything with a URL that's publicly available on the web. So you can run tests on your site, your competitor's site, anything at all, and get a lot of insight about what you can do right away to start optimizing your flows.
I love that idea, testing the competition, because sometimes it's hard for a smaller audience to get, which was my next question. How big a sample do you need to have data that you can consider reasonably reliable?
Yeah, for usability testing, the general rule of thumb is 5 is kind of the threshold. You get 5 people to test your site, and that's enough to give you a spread of different issues to be able to identify, oh, this one person was different from all the other 4, so maybe they're a bit of an outlier. It's going to cover your bases without dumping a huge amount of data on you. So that's the rule of thumb, and kind of the upper bound is about 25 for a large scale sample to get some real, statistically reliable quantitative data. So 5 to 25 is the range of the vast majority of tests run in our system.
Awesome. So this is affordable even for smaller merchants.
Exactly. And that's why our lowest plan, the $99 plan, starts you with 5 users, because that's going to get you to your threshold.
Terrific.
Yeah, and if I could go next on that one, yeah, optimal workshop. Most of our studies are done in an unmoderated way, and that's because our outputs, our analysis is actually so quantitative. It's so data rich, and so because of that, people will usually do studies with 30, 40, 50 participants per user segment. And I guess the cool thing is that you can use the unique study URL and distribute this as you need. So like I said, social media mailing list, potentially even creating a QR code and hanging it up in certain prominent places. That's all free participants essentially. So yeah, it's a great way to engage with people and get those, I guess, outputs from them.
Very cool.
And I think for running experiments, that number I think is considerably higher. You can run experiments with fewer users if the thing that you're looking to influence happens a lot. A lot of people look at purchase as the end goal and say, do I get statistical validity on people making purchases? And you need, hundreds of them to be able to validate. But if you're looking at earlier metrics, like, can I get people just to not bounce and browse around more, click around more? There may be hundreds or thousands of those engagements happening, in which case you can influence them a lot easier. It's more about being measured with what you're trying to influence.
Thank you.
My follow-up to that is, so we talked about how many to include, but how should store owners think about who to include or who to look at in the data?
Yeah, good question. I think when it comes to running experiments, actually the interesting way we approach that is almost to go big first, because you're essentially running experiments with your real users while still on your site. It's a lot easier to say, let me run an experiment to everyone, and then look back at data afterwards and try and slice them up into, audience groups and say, well, this group responded a particular way, another one responded a different way, but almost go big first. And quite often with tools, especially with ours, at the lower end, it's free. So there's no kind of barrier of, oh, I shouldn't bother including some people, I should look to exclude them. So kind of just put everyone in, and then let the data speak for itself when you look back.
Yeah, we definitely, that sort of broader net approach works well as well, I suppose, with our studies in terms of, sending out to the general public, who you maybe hope to be your customers, or sending studies out to your current customer base. And then, being able to segment that data is really important in analysis. And so actually, for say a card sort, actually asking pre-study questions around, age and region, maybe tech literacy or familiarity with certain products, that can be really important to ask, to then be able to, slice and dice the results and actually compare and contrast between different user groups potentially.
And with usability testing, these types of studies are very focused and small batch. So you're setting up those exact filters and screeners based on who is my target audience, and you can identify that in advance, and then we find the people who match that. And you might, depending on what your business is, you might have different types of profiles. So for example, with that PetSmart test, maybe they want one test where they have dog owners and another test where they have cat owners. And those two groups might have different perspectives on what's working for them, what's not working for them. And then within each batch, you're going to have some people who are more positive, some who are more negative, some who are more towards the middle. And it's just a matter of, when you go through that data, deciding what's kind of the big picture versus what are the specific points in that. So we can look and see who had the worst experience, and then compare that and see, did anyone else have similar issues to them, or were they a standalone, and make decisions about how you want to act on that data point as you look at the whole picture, and see what were the common issues versus, is this an issue that only one person ever had, right?
Yeah, what I love about all three of these tools, is to give some voiceover of how to use them together, and then I'll give you guys each a chance to talk about this, is that you can discover additional questions you have and then use complementary methods to figure it out. So we'll do an A/B test. We'll have some questions about why it worked out the way we did. We'll then do a usability study where we'll hear that navigation is one of the main problems that emerge. And then we'll do a card sort to figure out what we should now A/B test. So it becomes this full cycle of learning and optimizing. So I guess, thinking about store owners who aren't doing research today, how often or what kinds of things should they start with, just to kind of get their toes in the water, figure out their user experience in the research? How often, what would make sense to you guys as a starting place?
Quite often, perhaps not necessarily what would be great, what people tend to do, which, the two are not always the same thing, is almost look at why people leave. If you're experimenting with people as they hit a website, one of the worst things that could happen is that they leave without really doing anything, whether it's bounces or just they hop one page and then make an exit very quickly. So kind of understanding what the triggers are for that, how do you detect that these things are about to happen? It's not just the mouse is moving into the top corner. There's, dozens, if not more triggers that you could look at. So trying to capture, how do you know someone's leaving? And then the messaging really that you put in front of them. Either asking them questions, which is quite good, try and get information. You've got nothing to lose at that point. So ask her questions, or then, put offers in front of them. And that's often quite an easy win if people are leaving anyway. And that kind of, gets you involved in the process.
Yeah, I think for, I guess, the tools that I dived into a little bit more today for with Optimal Workshop, you could create a closed card sort to test your current categories that you've got and see how people would actually group your current pages on your website. Or you might actually look to pull an image from your current website and provide tasks based on your core products or your core services to make sure that people can actually access them well. Same with a TreeJack study, just doing a simple benchmark test to, I guess, replicate your current website structure, and again, create some tasks that really cover off those core services or products of your business to make sure that they're as accessible as possible. And yeah, it can be quite confronting sometimes. You might see, hey, it's not as easy to get to these products as I'd first thought. And straight away, you'll be able to see, I guess, some insights and some things to sort of unpack further from there.
With usability testing, the key to setting up a useful experiment is, knowing what you want to learn from it. And if you might already have some ideas about where your problem spots are or where people are dropping off. But if you don't, there's different tools that you can use to figure out what should I test, right? So you might use something like Webtrends, which is showing you, okay, here's what the data is showing from our real website. Here's this versus that. Why is that the case? Why are we having more success with this version versus that version? Or why are we seeing this data that's coming up? So then you could identify that and say, okay, let me set up a TryMyUI test and have some people go through and talk me through that, so I can get the why part and see the explanations behind that. And I know, actually, speaking of people using different tools together. Well, actually, I'll also mention something like Hotjar, where you're getting if you are familiar with that, it's something that you can put on your site and you get data from the real sessions, and they can tell you, here's the flows that people are taking through, and you can again look at that data, or your Google Analytics. There's a lot of data you can look at from your live site to identify what should I test. But also, I know that some of our customers actually will set up tree tests or card sorting tests with Optimal Workshop, and then use that link as their TryMyUI test instead of testing their website. They'll because they can use TryMyUI to say, okay, if I'm testing a wine sorting navigation, I want people who buy wine, so they could set up those filters with us and get 5 or 10 people to go through and use the Optimal Workshop to see what the outcomes are and how people sorted those. And get on the TryMyUI side, they can hear why they sorted them in that way and hear them talk through their thought process. So there's a lot of ways that all our tools can work together to paint a full picture, the whole way through the research process.
Yeah, that's huge as well. Like I said, Optimal Workshop, we've got some great sort of outputs of information. It shows you I guess the what, but in terms of that, maybe the why, doing some moderated sessions can be really awesome as well. So that's where we do see our tools get paired with, platforms that enable that moderation, particularly in remote environments like we're all in these days.
Linda asked a question. She said, I joined the meeting late. Could you recap how to use each of the tools? Our website is built using a WordPress framework. Linda, do you want anything else to that before we get some answers back?
I'm sorry I joined the meeting late. I mean, for those 3 tools, I might need to digest it later, but I'm just wondering, we used WordPress build a website. It's like a piece of puzzle. So I don't know how I'm going to integrate those tools into this website.
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, how do these tools interact with the real site or the actual site? Which of these tools need to be changed or added to the back end versus which ones don't need any changes?
Yeah, I can cover ours first. So because we're serving content to your actual site and measuring user behavior from real users, you do need to integrate us into your site. The way in which you do that is we have one HTML tag that just needs to go into the head of ideally every page. So kind of at a template level or global level. There's a whole bunch of WordPress plugins. I can't remember if they've added the feature yet or people just use plugins for everything. But there are a lot of plugins that let you do kind of global adding of tags. So you just pop us in there. And then as far as your website's concerned, that's it. That's all you need to do. The rest of it's handled in our tool from that point.
So what's the tag name you mentioned? The tag we need to.
Yeah, it's a script tag, so a JavaScript tag. you would get the tag from our UI when you kind of sign up to our product. So we'd give you that one line of HTML code, and that's the one that you would put into your website.
Okay, so we do need a plug-in, right? We need to Google and find the plug-in to.
Yeah, ideally there'll be a global page, a global level that you'd put a tag in, so you're only doing it in one place instead of every page. And for that reason, plugins are normally quite handy.
Yeah, definitely. That would be much easier. Alrighty, we'll do a little bit more research on that.
Yeah, I think the other two tools might have a much easier time when it comes to
So the
user
one-line
testing.
script, so the one-line script code, we can get it from your website, or?
Yeah, from our website when you sign up, we'll then send you a login, and you'll find it in our interface. Just from the top nav, it says tagging guide, and you'll see the one-line of code in there.
Okay, thank you very much.
No worries. I've left my details in the chat as well, so if you do have questions or you need to pick up, and we've got live chat on the website and stuff, so we're never too hard to get hold of.
Sure.
Speaking of the chat, TryMyUI has a link in there if you want to go test their tool with a free trial. Grab the link or click it now and save the page. I don't know if anybody else wants to pop anything up there. By the way, you can plug your websites here. So if you just want to show us off your beautiful websites and the things that you do, this is a good chance for that.
I'll just quickly mention too, as far as Linda's question, for TryMyUI, there's no backend setup, there's no integration or code that you have to add. Just when you're creating the test on our side, you'll put in a link to say, this is my website, this is my homepage or my landing page. And then when we run the tests, our software records the user's whole screen. So that's why we don't need anything that's on the back end of your site. We're able to capture whatever happens on their screen. And then you get those recordings back. So it's really easy setup.
Yeah.
Similar with the Optimal Workshop, the actual study creation is done via a web app, or our web app at optimalworkshop.com. And then you would distribute a unique URL to participants for them to engage with the actual study. In terms of, say, incorporating, say, visual elements, this is done through uploading an image, so no need to actually integrate at the back end as well.
Yeah, it's cool. Well, thanks.
Thanks, Linda. Well, thank you three for being on our panel today and sharing a very detailed view into all the kinds of things you can get done here. I want to just say thank you for providing that insight and recommend to everyone listening to definitely check out these tools. They are really complementary and they're really going to level up the experience so you can get more revenue from the people getting to your site. So I think a really important piece of the e-commerce puzzle is to make sure the experience works, and these three great tools will help you do that. Next month, Lori and I will be doing a site teardown for the meetup group. So submit your site on the event page, and we'll be choosing a couple of sites to do the teardown with for the April meetup. So in the meantime, we'll be uploading this video, and we look forward to seeing you all in April.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for being on, everyone. Take care.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Stay well.